AI's changed everything, including where your buyers go to do their research, discovery, and shortlisting. What's crazy is that a year ago, when we asked the question for the first time, where do you start your research? It was like 24% of people said I start in an LLM, not Google search. A year later, that's 51%. So 71% change.
From ABM to PLG, from medic to medpic, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundsen, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
Hi, Sydney. We talked.
Right.
Yeah, we talk every day, so it's good to see you live. But I cannot wait to hear a go-to-market. I think you've delivered really good go-to-market stories to me and Matt on our podcast and in the past. So I'm looking forward to for the crowd hearing yours. Give us a funny go-to-market story from your past.
Funny go-to-market story from my past. Okay, first of all, yes, I am a double on Scale Ventures. This is also can I count this as my third time on the transaction?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I know Scott Elbro has more, but on the fifth time, can we do custom sweatshirts? Because you got sweatshirt game.
Leather jackets.
Thank you.
Yes?
Leather jackets.
Leather jackets.
Leather.
Well, of course I love them. Okay, funny go-to-market story. How many could I tell? This isn't actually a funny go-to-market story, but it's the story that popped into my head. And it was going a little bit off the last conversation. And it's around my favorite F word, which is focus. If you haven't been in the hallway, there's really cool visual there too. And it's because it was actually a board meeting here in San Francisco when I was at SalesLoft, and the board members, and I'm one now, so I can make fun of us, was like, you should do this, this, and this. And you were part of this. We did this whole process around segmentation and strategy and decided what we were not going to do and had the data to prove it. And I remember our co-founder, Rob, was like, actually, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to move vertically. We're not going to expand because we've already done the work. And these are the 2 or 3 things that we're going to go after.
Yep.
And so sorry, it's not funny, but it's very important to go to market is to stay focused on what you know is the right thing to win. And Katie Doyle's in here, so I'm going to give her a little inside scoop that I was like, we've only penetrated like 20% of the sales engagement market. Outreach probably has 25%. There's still 50% to win, and I'm not going to stop focusing on that and just give it to my competitor. So
That was a really instructive story.
sorry. Yeah.
No, I liked it,
wasn't
and I
funny.
was part of that.
But
Thank
it was focus.
You can see I really enjoy when they tie back to me. That's really cool.
Yeah, we bought Craig chicken too that trip.
All right, so we're going to talk about AEO. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. AEO or GEO, we'll have to start with clarifying that for
Well, apparently all the cool kids are calling it GEO. And when I was at G2, we started with GEO, but then moved over to AEO last fall because what we were focused on was answer engine optimization, less on the GEO side. GEO is like, how do you program the LLMs to like learn your content? But why we picked AEO was because you want to own the answer. I know a lot of people are like AEO, GEO, whatever, BINGO. It's all, the context is, and this is the big reveal is AI has changed everything. I think I'm the first person to talk about AI. AI has changed everything, and including where your buyers go to do their research, discovery, and shortlisting. And we study this at G2. I do have a slide for this. And what's crazy is that a year ago, when we asked the question for the first time, where do you start your research? It was like 24% of people said I start in an LLM, not Google search. A year later, that's 51%. So 71% change in a year. I actually thought it was going to be higher. We just did the study in March, so it's hot off the press. But what was interesting about the shift between August of last year and now is how much deeper they're going. So their productivity is like 93% of people say I'm more productive because I'm using the LLMs to do my research, and it's making that go faster. The questions are deeper and more complex. So that's the giant shift that's happening. Buyers are starting there first, and they're doing all their research there before they come to call on a sales rep or show up on your website.
Yeah, one of the big changes is before you just ask the question and you get a list, Now you ask the question and you say, put this into a presentation for me. I'm going to move it. I'm going to present this in front of, this audience. And it goes from being something that you might offhandedly say to something that you're now presenting in front of an organization. So it's even more important than ever.
Yeah. And one of the questions that I get is like, how do I build my brands on the LLMs? And it's a strategic shift for not just marketers. I mean, like the entire executive team has to care about this. And I think there's a couple things you can do. I mean, when you understand where the LLMs go to answer the questions, which is what the AEO tools do, then you can start to understand, oh, that's where that's where the sources are, that's where my buyers are. And I like to recommend, like, you don't just want to answer the specific product question anymore. You actually want to answer the questions of the person you're trying to influence. So if you're trying to, influence a product leader, then what are the jobs to be done for the product leader? And how do you write all the questions for that person and have all the answers for that person? That's brand building, right? We used to hack our way into it with SEO, and like HubSpot was building content for non-marketers. And I'm sure that was a great strategy. They, because they were getting a lot of people to their site that weren't their future customers. But so that's number one, is that's how I start to think about it, like the easy hack. And then the second thing is you have to get on like the things that are influencing it the most. They're going to the LLMs first, and then where they go second is the citation source, or that validation. And it's two places. It's Reddit and like the G2 ecosystem now that they've acquired the Gartner stuff. And so a lot of people in San Francisco, I would imagine, are a little bit further ahead and like, I got to get my Reddit game on, I got to get my G2 game on. But when you really start to understand what is it looking for, it's looking for best of lists. It's looking for listicle content. It's looking for FAQs, things that match the structure of the question. And so that's what you need to think about building, is like, understand what are the questions being asked, and then how do I provide that answer, and then how do I make sure that answer is in all the other places that the LLMs are researching.
Is it true that G2 is the fourth most referenced product by the LLMs? Like, I was reading something along that data point.
It depends on the category, but it's usually somewhere between 8 and 15% of the citation source. There was a little bit of an algorithm change that GPT did to Reddit back in the fall. Like, someone pissed somebody off. This is recorded. And so their numbers started going down in terms of percentage of citation around B2B buyers. That's what we research. But we're usually in the top 3 to 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you said that, the executive team, everyone's got to be on board. Obviously, with a company like G2, it's very important to the core and the acquisition of the Gartner data. But like, how does that happen? How do you get the executive team bought in on this, right? I think we've talked about SEO and SEO not being, as popular anymore, but this is really imperative to make this switch and make this switch as fast as possible, right?
Yeah. The interesting, like SEO still matters, right? Because the other 49% are still going to Google, don't know who those people are. And so you still have to manage your SEO game for now. And like PPC's gotten way more expensive because there's less buyers going, but people are still trying to acquire them. What's interesting is, why does it matter? It's because that's where the buyers are. And so if it's not a strategic initiative at the C level, it definitely has to be a strategic initiative within the marketing team, because that's our job, is to find where they're at, build our brand, and go capture those people. And if you're not on the shortlist, which are shrinking, you won't be able to build your business. And I mean, founder brand and all that is great too, but like, where they're actually going to do the research on what they're going to buy is where you need to make sure that you're showing up.
Where does somebody start? Like, where do they start on this project? You mentioned like lists and FAQs, but where's like 0 to 1?
The thing that I would recommend, and I did this to a couple of the scale portcos, and they're like, we don't have that much money, we have to hack it. So I'm like, okay, I'll figure that out. But if you do have some funding, the first thing I would do is buy an AEO tool. If you don't know what questions people are asking and the citation sources that are influencing the answer, how do you know what to write about and how can you track that you're actually starting to build your brand. So first is the AEO tool in order to get visibility. And then the second is a content strategy. Now, the cool kids are calling it content engineering now, if you haven't heard that term. And so it's a really interesting, because if you think like writers and engineering, two things that I didn't really think went together. But they, they're being very curious. Like my writing team, they were the first ones diving in Claude and using it for ideation. So it could be, I love where I'm starting to see this go. And the AEO vendors are kind of coming at it from one direction, and then you've got like the AirOps and GrowthX and all these folks coming at it from the other. And I think they're going to converge very soon, where they have some AI content ability inside the tool itself. So it's like mining for the questions, sourcing the content for the answers, and then you still have to make sure it's timely. Like you can't leave it there. You have to keep refreshing it. You have to. So there's a management side that goes along with that, and then just keep on continuing. Like it goes, I think, Matt, what you said, the complexity of the prompt is changing as well. So a year ago, people might have asked a single sentence prompt. Now they're like 4 to 5 sentences. And so the questions are, I'm looking for a solution to solve this problem. I want to replace these 2 products. I'm in this industry, and I want to spend this much. And so how do you build your content to that, right? So you have to have comparison content, you have to have industry content, you have to have pricing. And so the complexity of the structure of the content is increasing dramatically.
Yeah, I think whenever I'm performing a search where I'm doing a comparative search, a prompt that I might put in is like, hey, I'm considering buying a product that does X. Find me the 3 or 4 brands in the space that are a good fit. Give me a T-chart for the pros and cons of each and stack rank them based upon how expensive they are initially and what the total cost of ownership would be for them. And a year ago, I would have been like, what's a good AEO tool? Right? So the change there is super complicated and highly, highly specific. But what I tend to get when I put up a prompt like that is a lot of data from G2.
Yeah, that's because we've architected, and I love that you mentioned we're seeing, we have our own AEO tools, so we see all the questions for all the prompts across all the categories and can start seeing that pattern. And so pro-con started coming up more frequently about 6 months ago. So we created pro and con lists for every category and every product because we knew that's what it was looking for. We knew it was looking for pricing. So if a person who claimed their G2 profile hadn't yet put pricing on, because we know that's the one way we can get a customer to talk to sales, and so we're like, okay, well, the customer's not going to put pricing on, we're going to put pricing on. So we looked at the reviews that were left and tried to infer from that data what the pricing was and pre-populated it into the profile. Because we want to make sure that the data there is relevant. Now you can go in and change it. I think you have to pay us to do that. But that is what we're looking at. We're continuously like trying to understand that structure. The other thing that is interesting is then how do you start to track and measure it too? And I've been getting this question a lot more from the folks I advise. Even we had one of our people, she's like, the board is asking me for my AEO dashboard. What should I do? I'm like, oh, that's a good question. And so I went to some of the vendors. I'm like, what's your dashboard look like? They're like, we don't have one. I'm like, nobody's tracking it yet. This is great opportunity. And so, it is a thing of like, what percentage of answer do you own? So what mentions versus your competitors? What is the citation, and is it trending up? Like how many of your content, how much of your content that you directly own is cited? But I also like to look at indirect, because when you look at what are the citation sources, it might be G2. And so like, you've invested in G2, but it might be some random blogger that just like is passionate about what it is that you do. And so that's why the influencer strategy is so important. And so an influence on citation could be other people you've partnered with, your partnerships. You can put your content and FAQs in their areas. And you could do that as a trade-off. We used to do backlinking all the time. We're getting marketing nerdy here, but now why don't you put your FAQ on my site and I'll let you put yours, like we could trade it off because it's looking for the right answer and consensus. So if it finds it in a few places, you're good to go. So measurement is really important.
I think that's great because my next question was going to be like, what are some of the things that no one's thinking about, right? Because yes, people are trying to protect reputation on places like Reddit and other social media channels. Yes, people, I mean, even before the rise of this category, people were always trying to have good scores on G2 and mitigate bad scores and have as many positive reviews as they possibly could, show up in quadrants there, et cetera. But what are some of the things that are non-traditional that maybe we're not thinking about? I mean, the FAQs on a partner's page is a perfect example of that, but are there other examples that are pushing the needle?
Two that come to mind that will give you a leapfrog over everybody else, because I haven't heard these yet. The first is on G2, we've had this concept of discussions for years. Discussion, we try to like build a Reddit-ish. If you look at most pages, the last discussion was 6 years ago. Nobody was wanting to discuss. But we figured out that, that's another question answer format and that is easy to tokenize and easy for the bots to read. So go get your discussion game on. You can put whatever questions you want and have anybody answer those questions, and that's going to then get indexed on the LLMs. That's just another place to put it. So discussions on G2 is one. And then the other one that I want people to make sure that they're doing, you just have to figure out where are natural conversations happening. And that's in your community. If you have communities and community forums, developer discussions, how do you optimize that for the LLMs? And there's two tools that I'm aware of currently. HubSpot has a AI or AEO website grader. It used to be the website grader, now it's an AEO grader, and so does Webflow, webflow.com AEO. And then you could just put in your URL and it will tell you what to do technically to open it up to make sure it's readable. So those are some super tactical things just to like give access to content.
Love it.
Here's the thing I don't get. So you're trying to make sure that your website has all these answers. Okay, and then you want to make sure that you're present in all the like Reddit conversations, et cetera?
You want to be understanding what the LLMs are using to find the answer. That's what the citation is. So once you see that, you'll see it's, this Reddit discussion thread, not just your Reddit presence, but the threads themselves.
Right.
And how do I then own that answer? How can I influence the ownership of that answer? And so that's what the AEO tool will give you is like, okay, what are those citation sources? How do I then go own that answer? Oh, by the way, sentiment matters. So if they're negative answers, how do I put positive answers out there? You can change it, or you can create new places to ask the same question with more up-to-date content, and it will maybe favor that over the other one. It's a game.
Yeah.
And yes, you want to be able to have your content replicated in multiple places. It's the fancy term is consensus signal amplification, which basically means when you go and do a search on your LLM of choice, it's searching. You see it, right? Spinning, and then it's like checking this, checking that, checking that, checking that. Well, it's looking for the right answer. And if it sees in multiple places that question with the same answer, it's like, that must be the right answer. So that's why you want to have your content in multiple places, because if it sees it 3 or 4 times, then it's going to give the answer that you want it to have. Who cares if it came from a partner website or G2 or your website or some influencer blog? The right answer is there, and that's what you're going for.
Right, but if it's an influencer blog and that's what you get from the citation, how do you change that?
You pay the influencer?
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean,
right?
I get it. I mean, yeah.
Let me sponsor you. By the way, can you update this?
But what about all those people that are doing like, they're taking the 100 questions and they're having AI answer them and put them on their website? I mean, like.
That can work, and you can construct your pages in a way that favors the AI bots, and that's another thing you can track is like how much of the traffic to my website are bots versus humans, and that will also give you an indication if you're being cited more often. So yes, I've landed on a bunch of those pages lately, and I'm like, oh, this isn't for me, this is for a bot. Where
Yeah.
is the answer I'm looking for? Yeah, it's like buried.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, because I've always, even though I've heard your prezo a bunch of times and I get it, I'm like I feel like the best recommendation I can make is to start with G2 or one of those and just try to optimize one.
I would start with the tool, understand the citation source, and where they're going to get answers, and go own those answers first.
Right,
And then
but
I
if
would
it's all-
replicate that same question answer format across many places as I can. And yes, I mean, if like you're asking me to, should I pitch G2 or not? But yeah, G2 is one of the top sources. You'll see that. You'll see it on G2. Like, so yes, you want to build your brand on there. You want to make sure you have your FAQs there. By the way, they can't be in PDFs because they don't want to open PDFs anymore. And so you want to have, you know, your content in the places that it's citing. And I'm confident that G2 will be on that list. So
Right.
you
Well, we can talk
definitely-
about, I mean, like Reddit, if you try to game Reddit, like that's a dangerous game, right? I mean, because if everyone's going to go try to optimize the answers, I mean, if you're in the developer community, we were just talking about it, you go fuck with the people on Reddit, you are in trouble. I mean, they're going to get you.
Which is
dude.
why the influencer is, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why the influencer part of that is part of the concentric pieces, because you still want to, you have to have influencer game here. You just do, and you want them to be educated and passionate about what you're doing and willing to go in and authentically answer those questions. But we played this game, right? Like we hired at SalesLoft like all these great advisors and people like Matt, and you know, they were happy customers to talk about us, but they were like, how many times did someone on LinkedIn say, I don't know, SalesLoft or outreach, you know? And I was like, call down everybody, and they're, you know, how many answers do we get versus it's the same game.
Yeah. I remember
game.
once, actually, a funny story. I was talking to Craig in like 2017, and I was like, I want to start a fire on LinkedIn. Like, how do I start a fire? And he was like, just post SalesLoft versus outreach. And like within a day, I think there was 1,000 comments and 1,800 likes. Like that there was a time when like, man, you could really stir up some shit on LinkedIn by just talking about two different vendors. One question that I have on this topic is like, we talk about content freshness, and we want to be updating and constantly have a new content stream there. What about like content age, like older content, right? And the reason why I ask the question is like, if you're a business that's been in the game for a while, and maybe you don't know the answer, maybe no one's ever asked this answer, but like I find myself at a company that is now 25 years old. We have content that's very old, but we've been an authority in the space for a long time. Like, does content age actually create a little bit of additional relevancy, considering the fact that like we've been around for a while? Or
This is the interesting thing in the SEO versus AEO, because like if you have a high ranking page in SEO, it could be super old, right? I would create a newer version of those high ranking pages that are optimized for AEO. Because the first thing that's likely to happen is if you actually read it, is it written in natural language?
Sure.
Right? So you want the structure to be like question and answer, insight focused, definitions, things like that. So I would just take your top performing SEO pages and then like, how do I create AEO versions of them? We did a massive cleanup of the G2 infrastructure. We had millions and millions of pages because we had optimized for SEO for so long. And so like literally the dev team took 2 months to purge all the content that wasn't performing because it was counting against us. Because when you think about the math of it, when an LLM is going and searching, it costs more for the more pages that you're trying to get through. And so if we could make that easier and better, so we pruned down the website by like 25, 30%, was huge. We also thought Google was dinging us for that at the same time, so we did it for both. And it does, the LLMs do want recency. So refreshing is a good strategy.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is literally like a tactical
that-
question that I have to go answer at work later.
I mean, he was really happy about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. But can we do the PR thing? Can we talk about that? Because I think the recency thing it's one of my favorite parts of what you talk about here.
Yeah. So PR has come back. For those of us who've been doing this a long time, the game was like get mentioned in the publications, and they would do product demos. Remember PC Week? Am I that old?
Oh, wow.
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't know, I guess.
I demoed the PC Week when we had a new product coming out. But a lot of those went away just because they weren't paying the reporters anymore, and there weren't as many people to pitch, frankly. So it was just really hard for the PR firms to get you coverage because there was less coverage to be had. So now, when you look at the citate, like the influence, like Forbes did a really good job. I think they did a deal with GPT or OpenAI. So some of the publications have created formal relationships with the AI vendors and opening up content and structuring it a way that they like. So they've started to be cited more. Great strategy on their part. What you can do, Craig, since you asked the question, you can still do the old school pitching, right? That VentureBeat article is, we didn't believe in the MIT study that said AI was bad, and so we pitched on that, and we got a bunch of coverage for it. So, and we went back and hired an agency. I know a lot of people are doing press releases again because PR Newswire gets picked up, so it gets indexed. If people didn't know this, you can buy your way into Forbes. So when people see like Forbes Council, Forbes Contributor, that's only $1,600 a year in order to do that. And so #founder branding, why not have your founder also be a Forbes contributor, because it will be looked at as authenticated content on a good media publication. And then I still say organic social there because it will still crawl that too, right? And so you don't want to not put your content in that space too.
So if I'm a Series A founder, should I hire a PR agency?
Did everybody hear Craig's question? No. Yeah, I didn't think so. Here.
What the?
You can't hear you.
Who said that? Isn't my mic that bad? Hold on. Thank you. What did I ask?
If you're a founder, Series A founder.
Oh, yeah. If you're a founder, like Series A, let's start, or C, there's some C. Yeah. I mean, to get to this, do you hire a PR agency? Because the chart on PR agencies will be like really high, then they've cratered, and now they're coming back. If your answer is what I think it is.
Yeah, the future of PR agencies in the Bay Area hinges on your answer to this question.
I was just asked this question by thread.ai yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm like, well, do you have news? Was my first question. Like, you have product announcements? Are you getting funding announcements? Because you got to give the PR agency something to work with. If you're so early that you don't have anything newsworthy, I would buy the AEO tool first. Yeah. And build your brand there, and just do really good on LinkedIn. I don't know what he's going to do, my advice, but that's what I would personally do.
What do you mean do really good on LinkedIn?
Everything Scott said, right?
Okay.
On founder branding. Like, be your persona, find your story and your narrative, and, think about your distribution channels. Did I listen right? Those were the three things. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a question on this because I think to both their points, right? It's like what was, the PR game was so important years ago. It's really kind of diluted itself and died off. Mm-hmm. Is there any other bet that you're making that you think is going to come back, right? Because you mentioned Reddit, you mentioned PR. These are different strategies than B2B companies have been taking over the last couple of years, right? So is there something else you're betting on?
I mean, being back in person is cool again. And I've always been a fan of partnerships, right? I think that's an amplification strategy. Like, you want to hang out with cool kids. Yeah, I did a roadshow right here last, when was it? May? It was during the SaaStr Crazy. Raise your hands if you were here. I know you were here, right? I intentionally picked Clay to be a partner because I wanted to ride their hype, and it was relevant to what we were doing. So the audience, we all had the shared audience, like Clay and 6 Sense and LinkedIn. And so I think who you pick to partner with says a lot about your brand as well. And if you could get the leverage of amplification on a single narrative that it connects all the dots, all of the partners benefit from that. So in-person events with partners.
Love that. Where do you think about the partner strategy as like products are starting to go wider platforms and starting to compete with each other, right? Like even for this event and the partners we were talking to, you know, some people are like, oh, well, they're a competitor now. Like 6 months ago, I would have said that company is not a competitor to you, right? So how do you think about that, you know, frenemy strategy as well?
I think as a good partner, like if you're the core platform that they're all integrating with, like, you got it. But to be a good partner, you're like, here's my swim lane. This is what our roadmap is doing. This is outside my swim lane. And therefore, you know, for the next year, at least, I promise, you know, pinky promise not to go there. That's one thing. The actual way that I usually think about this as a market leader is I always want to start with the customer and what does their world look like? What are the influential things, products, services, et cetera, in their world? What piece do I play? I just play a little piece. I am not the end all be all. And so it bothers me when I see people like telling a story from their point of view, like they're the only thing. You're not, right? So what is the bigger picture? How do I fit? And then who are the leaders in the other pieces of that pie that I can go be friendly with? And then how do we, you know, surround the customer in a meaningful way? How do we create differentiation? You know, I remember a few years ago when I was at SalesLoft, we did a partnership with 6 Sense, and we built a specific integration. And I'm like, an outreach can't have it for a year. And that's what happened. So we had a unique integration in their sales product that created differentiation for both our companies. And so I love doing that too. Like, how can you create unique differentiation to both win together?
So I watched Sydney do this presentation at SaaStar and just absolutely blow the roof off. That's why I wanted her here again. And she thinks that I say that because we're friends, but I say that because dozens of people were like, did you catch that presentation? If there was one thing that everybody in the room could just like, if they haven't started on their journey, or maybe they have, but like there's one piece of advice that everybody in the room needs to know on this topic, what is the one thing that you want them to know?
That it is happening. This is the future. And you just should start today. Like, this is not going to happen. This is 100% happening. And imagine, I was talking to a founder the other day, like seed stage. He's like, imagine the LLMs, and you can, because now we're using Claude, and Claude Cowork actually does all the research for you, including the demo, right? And so it does the comparison side by side of the in-product experience. Like, how far is this going to go? It's going to go really far. And so the faster you can think of where is this going to go and how do I build for that, will get you that first mover advantage. And so, like, this is happening. You need to play the game, and if you can think 3 steps ahead, even better.
Amazing. Last, maybe part 2 on that question is, you know, is it true then you need to have an AEO strategy tomorrow, but you still need to have the SEO strategy for the time being?
Yes, I think so. I mean, like, the data says that. The things that you can't tell, and this is one of the things I struggle with, is did they go to the LLM first and then go to Google? Because they do, right? And then you just spent that. And then so what are you giving credit for? Are you giving it the credit to the SEO or the AEO? So also, you know, PR is cool again. So is self-reported attribution, which means, you know, ask the person, how did they find you? When did they decide? What did they use? And I'm talking to people now who are like, can you pull it out of a gong call? How do you automate that? Could you put a questionnaire in front of that first opportunity meeting? Like before they enter the call? Like, how do you make, like, it doesn't have to be a form on the website. It just has to be asked. I don't care where. Yeah.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Where can more people learn about this topic, right? Do they follow you on LinkedIn? Yes. Tell us where to go.
Yeah, I mean, the slides are posted. Yes, please go follow me on LinkedIn and give it a like so it gets boosted because it's your content. And I did put the slides that I didn't share on there. So if you want to know what all the slides, they're on my LinkedIn right now. Yeah.
Yes, everyone go check it out.
Yeah. There's like
Everyone go check it out.
four fun facts on LinkedIn strategy. Where did I put that? That's backwards. Always post from your personal account, not the branded account. Respond to the comments in the first 5 minutes. So I like to schedule, like I scheduled my post to go at 2:30 and then set time aside to like be on to comment on people commenting. That's what creates virality. If you're doing a favor to a friend, like when Lars used to ask people like line up to, hey, I'm going to do a post. If there's people in the crowd that did that, like and then comment, and you have to comment more than 8 words for it to count. Right? Yeah. So don't just go, hey, congrats. Right? It needs to have more than 8 words for it to count. And here's another one. If you tag other people in your post, hoping those people with large followers are going to do something, if they don't respond, it actually counts against you. So don't do that unless you know the person's going to respond. Those are some fun facts on LinkedIn strategy.
Amazing.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.